Ladies and gentlemen, I recently had the opportunity to film some firefighting helicopters in action here in Australia, and I noticed that they carry large buckets of water on the end of long ropes, and I thought to myself, I wonder if my drone can do that. Not necessarily buckets of water, but maybe I can have it bring me a beer or a sandwich when I'm out working on the property. So I'm going to design and 3D print a motorized claw which I can hang underneath the drone and see what kind of fun things we can get up to with it. So let's get started. So here's what I'm thinking might work. A circular claw with a 66mm diameter for the standard Australian drink can, operated by a servo motor. Let's build one and try it out. Alright, now that the claw is operational, let's test its clamping and holding force, and measure the current so we know how much power to provide. It looks like it needs about 2.2 amps at 5 volts, so this 3 amp voltage regulator should be perfect. Now to add some cables to the drone's power distribution board to carry the power down to the claw. Here I'm adding a control wire to the flight computer, so it can tell the claw when to open and close. I'm also adding a second spare wire in case we carry anything else that needs to be controlled. I think that's all the hardware ready to go. Hope the weather's good tomorrow and we can test it out. Alright, it's time for our first flight test with the hook attached. We're not going to have a payload for this one, we're just going to make sure that we can hover the drone, pick up the hook. It's not going to make the drone unstable, hopefully, and we can put the hook back down and land again. If that all works, we'll try it with the payload. So it has no trouble lifting the empty hook, but it does have a tuning problem with the new smaller battery. As you can see and hear it oscillating in flight. I'm going to continue testing and we can fix the tuning later. Let's try it with the payload. It seems to handle the weight okay, though I've got the throttle up pretty high. I'm also trying to figure out how to arrest the swinging of the payload, but it might take some practice. Let's see if the release button works. Nice, like a charm. Now let's see if we can pick it up again. Okay, I don't think I'm going to pull this one off today. I'll load it again with my meaty flesh hands for one more test flight. Let's see if a Coke can survive delivery from 15 meters in 3, 2, 1. Well, I'd say that went pretty well, at least as well as a DHL delivery. Now, I'm just going to quickly take a look at the flight logs of the drone here, check that we didn't max out any of the motors, speed controllers, and that the battery voltage didn't dip too low. If all of that looks good, then let's try a long-range delivery.
Alrighty, here you can see I've overlaid some data from the drone's flight recorder. When the drone is hovering without lifting the hook or payload, the motors are at 27% throttle, drawing 27 amps. Now, while hovering with the payload, we're at 32% throttle and 29 amps. And while ascending with the payload, we're at 35% throttle and 32 amps. We have heaps of power to spare and the battery's doing fine, so I think it's ready for its first waypoint mission.
My heart is pounding, ready for my first fully autonomous mission. We've got the empty can loaded, and in theory this is going to pick it up 40 meters. We're going to fly about 350 meters, descend, and drop the empty can on a tree stump, or me if I get there in time. Nothing to it but to do it. So my empty Coke can didn't make it because the servo motor failed on the claw, probably from being forced closed for too long. So I've replaced it with my only spare servo motor, and I think that means it's time to fly a full can of Coke. So got the PPE on, definitely the coolest kid on the block today, and I'm going to go and see if I can catch this can at the other end. Let's see what happens.
Sometimes in engineering, things only work when you run out of ways to do them wrong. If I seem a little bit too excited, it's because I think I'm finally reaching the bottom of that list, or so I say. If you have any ideas for what I should try next, then let me know in the comments. And if I can improve the hook and the GPS accuracy, I might even try a can drop from 100 meters up. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.